Good morning, guys. Welcome to my thought for the day here in the Philippines. You know, many of you who have reached retirement, the golden years, we might call it, come to the Philippines in search of an opportunity to reset one's life, to look at the possibility maybe of making the Philippines our home. And for many, we achieve a good balance to our expectations. But for some, of course, it's almost an impossible task. It's like a kid in a candy store in a way, because there's so much beauty, so much attractiveness in the Filipino people that there's a smorgasbord out there looking to possibly create a relationship with a foreigner. Now, the problem with that, of course, is that many of you will say, well, we're the outsider, we're the aliens that they put on our card, alien ID. That's exactly what we are. Of course, we need to remind ourselves also that we are, in fact, the prize. We're the golden egg that the goose has hatched. And some of you come thinking that you're the knight in shining armour, which really is maybe true, but it's not wise to perceive yourself as that individual, simply because reality has to hit the road running. We can fall in love, we can have romance, we can have closeness, but whether we have what we're really looking for is another thing. Some of us might call it lust, some might call it just fancy, but the reality is that it's easy to feel all of those things with your Filipina. But what we need to find in ourselves and in her is the willingness to share, one's thoughts and aspirations. How many of you have actually sat down and asked her at a time where she can actually put the phone down for 5 seconds? How many of you actually asked them what their aspirations are for life, let alone with a foreigner? When I first came here, I quickly discovered that for many Filipina, having a foreigner boyfriend, husband, live-in partner was almost like a status symbol amongst their friends and neighbours. And it's easy to believe that you're so important when the media portrays us as millionaires. Just because we have a pension doesn't, of course, make us that. It does if we convert it into pesos. We are millionaires compared to them. When the average person makes barely maybe $250,000 a year in a good government job, then clearly when you bring to the table maybe at least $1 million, $1.5 million pesos as a bare start, that increases the opportunity for the family. Maybe they've been struggling for a few years trying to put their children through the best education they can find or afford, because many families can't even afford the most basic of education. They need that person to assist them, that child, to assist them making ends meet. And of course you have to remember that generation, whatever they call them, X, Z, P, whatever, the current generation of young women and boys, men, have a different attitude towards things. Everything is obtainable. Everything should be obtainable. Why isn't it, they say. And it's a sort of a mindset that allows them to think that they're entitled to all those things that they see on YouTube and on the news media, portrayed in soaps over here, many from Korea. So it's no doubt that they would feel that way. Who has made them that way is, of course, us, parents, us as grandparents also. We need to focus on providing not only resources for the family, but also a wake-up call for many of the young generation. The need to have a good education to provide for a future, not just for while I'm here, but for those when we're gone. Because that's their opportunity, just like it was for me when I first went to New Zealand. No one got me up in the morning except the lack of money. The only reason I got up in the morning was a horrible job as a storeman, sorting out electrical parts for a Philips organisation in Newmarket in Auckland. But it was the salary that I got every week on payday, on Friday. Friday, as the Cambodians might have described it. But that in itself is a learning curve. It's a case of survival. And for the Filipina and the Filipino, survival takes on a different meaning. It's not got the same guidelines that in the West we have. The fact that if we can't get a job, we can go on the dole, on Social Security, until we find a job. Here, there's no job, there's no money. No money, no food, no future. So you may well find that a lot of the youngsters now use social media to generate small amounts of money selling things online. It might even be selling cars by commission only, being like a middleman. Again, if you're resourceful, you can achieve a reasonable amount of money coming into the home. And again, it's combined with others that are in the home as well. So it's not just that one person. But the mindset still is, now I have my salary, what shall we spend it on? They don't have the mindset to stop for 1 minute and think, this amount goes there, this amount goes there, and this amount stays here. And without those fundamental ideas in their mind, that's the reason they find themselves standing still for so long, unable to break away and break out of the dreadful situation of poverty here in the Philippines. I'm not saying that everybody is in that situation, but those that have achieved to break out of it also have learned very quickly a need to hold on to what they can as best they can, to create a bank account where they have money put aside for those unexpected things. You and I might think, well, of course you'd need that. Who wants to get to payday with 10 pesos in their bank account? Not me, that's for sure. But for them, when they have a foreigner, it's easy to, can I borrow? Of course, you're not going to say no, are you? But the reality is that sooner or later you are going to have to say no. Because if you don't, your own nest egg will be drained to the point where you suddenly look and realize there's nothing there to top it up again, except another lot of determined effort on your behalf, putting aside a certain amount each week, each month. It's no good at teaching people that life with a foreigner is a great opportunity to get ahead if you don't show them the reasons why. And when I say show them, in a tactful way, don't talk down to them as if you're the master of everything. You need to approach it from the point of view that, yes, it's lovely to go out and buy a new kettle or a new table or whatever, new clothes. But there's a time that we do it. We say, right, well, we're going to save for the next 2 months so that we can do this. It doesn't mean that you don't have the money now, but by teaching them to save, to wait until the opportunity came, it's more exciting then to go out as a group and to have a little flutter, a little spend up. They will understand that they've sacrificed a little bit to enable themselves to do those things, for them to maybe get their hair dyed or straightened or even cut and styled. Again, an enjoyable time for everyone, not always attainable to the general public. But they still manage to dress each other up, look spick and span, and put their best image forward, which is what Filipinos do. And many of them, of course, myself included, have been reminded that it's important that we look our best when we go out of the house. And this is part and parcel of their culture. They don't want to portray to others the image that somehow they're not looking after their man. It takes a while to sink in for us foreigners, especially this Brit. But nevertheless, it's important to them and we must listen to what they say. What seems rather pointless, having 4 and 5 showers a day, because it's a hot environment, to us is an annoying thing. No, I don't. I'm okay. But sometimes we just have to listen to them, even if we don't realize that maybe we are a little bit on the nose. But then they smell us differently than we do them. They cover themselves in perfume and lotion, whereas we tend to, if you're lucky, underarm deodorant is about as far as it goes. Maybe a case of Old Spice that's been sitting around for the last decade, finally being used to spray ourselves so that we smell like a deodorant in a toilet. But again, it's about image. Philippines and Filipina are all about image. They're all about, sadly, in a way of keeping up with the Joneses. And we know ourselves that that's almost an impossible task to do, and a rather pointless task. But we've somehow got to teach them that, okay, they're not going to change, but maybe they need to just relax a little bit and realize that what they have in front of them is the golden egg again. Give him a chance to be himself too. Don't let her rule your life completely. Sure, she will always be the boss of the home. That's inevitable. But just remembering that we have a mind of our own too. We have an important role to fill in the home, beyond being the financial support mechanism for many families here. Also remembering that, as many of you have spoken about, establish it very early. that you're not the BDO or the Metro Bank for the rest of the family. Yes, in emergencies we'll all dig in, but we won't be the one that has to foot the bill each time. So if you like this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And I'd like to thank all of you on both of these channels for your support and kind words in your comments. And it's always a delight to read them, whether or not some of them are a bit close to the bone. But I realise sometimes they're replying to others, not me personally. So, still hanging in there for my teeth, that is. I did make an acquaintance of them the other day, but I believe they might be there today or maybe tomorrow. Definitely by the middle of the week. But it'll be a case of trying to get my tongue around the fact that I've got these lumps in my mouth that provide me with teeth. I think they'll take a little while to get the rain in Spain stays mainly on the plain. And with that thought, cheerio. Bye now.